When Top Gun hit theaters in 1986, it became an instant cultural phenomenon. But what happened behind the scenes is even more shocking than what made it to the screen. Fact 1.
Greetings.
Top Gun wasn't just a box office hit, it became a real-world military tool. After the film's release, Navy recruitment reportedly jumped by 500%. In fact, the military set up recruitment booths directly inside theaters. Young men walked out of screenings and immediately signed up. The U.S. Department of Defense supported the film from the start. They let filmmakers use real aircraft carriers, F-14 jets, and pilots. But there were strings attached. The Pentagon had script approval rights. They made sure the Navy was portrayed in a heroic and glamorous light. Some scenes were altered to avoid showing pilot deaths or military errors. Despite the changes, the film still felt edgy and dangerous. Director Tony Scott pushed hard to keep it stylish and fast-paced. The final dogfight scene was almost completely rewritten to satisfy the military. Still, the results worked perfectly for both Hollywood and the Navy. Thousands of people said the movie made them want to be a pilot. Even Navy recruitment ads started to mimic Top Gun's aesthetic. The film had such an impact, it's been studied by military sociologists. Critics have called it propaganda with sunglasses, and they're not wrong. But whatever you call it, Top Gun changed the image of the U.S. military forever. The Navy gave the filmmakers full access, but kept creative control. The film's success showed that Hollywood and the Pentagon could work hand in hand. And it all started with a script that was originally rejected multiple times. Top Gun wasn't just a movie, it was a recruiting revolution. Fact 2.
I gotta send somebody from this squadron to Miramar. You two characters are going to Top Gun.
Today, it's hard to imagine Top Gun without Tom Cruise. But he wasn't the producer's original pick for Maverick. Actors like Matthew Modine, Emilio Estevez, and even Patrick Swayze were considered. Modine actually turned down the role because he opposed the film's military tone. Cruise only got involved after seeing director Tony Scott's previous work. He liked the energy of The Hunger and signed on after a motorcycle meeting with producers. At the time, Cruise was still on the rise, not yet a full superstar. Paramount execs weren't even sure he could carry an action movie. To prove himself, Cruise insisted on doing many of his own stunts. He even flew in real F-14 jets to prepare for the role. During one of those flights, he threw up multiple times due to the G-forces. Still, he kept going, earning the respect of real pilots on set. Director Tony Scott said Cruise's intensity and competitiveness were perfect for Maverick. Cruise also helped shape Maverick's cocky but loyal persona. He brought ideas to the table about Maverick's emotional arc, especially after Goose's death. The studio later admitted they couldn't have found a better actor. His performance became the template for action heroes in the late 80s. Without Cruise, it's likely Top Gun would have been a very different movie. Even co-stars said Cruise changed the entire tone of the production. He pushed for realism, drama, and adrenaline all at once. And by the time the movie premiered, Cruise had gone from rising actor to global icon. That cockpit was his launchpad to superstardom. Fact 3.
Pin forward, Goose! I can't reach the ejection handle!
The death of Goose is one of Top Gun's most emotional moments. And shockingly, it was inspired by a real accident. In 1983, 2 Navy pilots flying an F-14 Tomcat had to eject during a training mission. One pilot survived, but the other hit the canopy and died instantly, just like Goose. The tragic similarity wasn't a coincidence. Writers Jim Cash and Jack Epps Jr. had researched dozens of real military incidents. They wanted the film to reflect authentic aviation risks. The scene was so realistic, many viewers assumed it was Hollywood fiction. But Navy officials confirmed the fatal canopy impact had really happened. Anthony Edwards, who played Goose, was deeply moved by the scene. He spent time with real aviators to understand how they process grief. Tom Cruise later said it was the hardest scene to film. Director Tony Scott wanted to avoid melodrama and keep it grounded. The music was stripped back, and most of the emotion came from Cruise's reaction. The Navy was initially concerned it would scare off recruits, but it had the opposite effect. Audiences appreciated the film's willingness to show real loss. It also added emotional depth to Maverick's transformation. Without Goose's death, the story would have felt more like a video game. Instead, it became a tale of loss, guilt, and redemption. The scene made Top Gun not just thrilling, but human. And it's still one of the most talked about moments in military film history. Sometimes the most unforgettable moments come from real-life tragedy. Fact 4. Director Tony Scott had a bold cinematic vision that clashed with the studio. During one aircraft carrier sequence, he wanted to capture the perfect sunset shot. The ship's captain refused to turn the carrier around for lighting reasons. Scott offered the crew $25,000 of the studio's money just to turn the ship. They agreed, but when Paramount found out, they were furious. Executives almost fired Scott on the spot for wasting budget on aesthetics. Scott later admitted he didn't even ask permission. He just handed over the check. That one shot lasted just a few seconds in the final cut, but it became one of the most iconic visuals in the movie. The orange sky behind a silhouetted jet became poster-worthy. Scott said it captured the romanticism of flight better than anything else. Despite the drama, the studio kept him on due to Cruise's support. Cruise reportedly told producers Scott was the only one who gets it. That decision saved the film's tone and visual style. Scott would go on to direct even bigger films like Crimson Tide and Enemy of the State. But Top Gun remained his most visually striking project. His cinematography shaped the look of action films for decades. Lighting, framing, and movement became as important as explosions. Even today, directors cite Top Gun as a masterclass in visual adrenaline. And it all came down to a rogue sunset shot that nearly cost him his job. Sometimes greatness comes from breaking the rules, and Tony Scott knew when to bend them just far enough. Fact 5.
You guys really are cowboys.
What's your problem, Kazansky? You're everyone's problem. That's because every time you go up in the air, you're unsafe. I don't like you because you're dangerous.
That's right.
Val Kilmer's performance as Iceman became legendary, but he never wanted to play the role in the first place. Kilmer was under contract with Paramount and was forced to audition. He deliberately gave a sarcastic, detached performance during casting. To his surprise, the producers loved it. It matched Iceman's cold personality. He reluctantly accepted the role, thinking the movie would flop. On set, Kilmer reportedly clashed with Tom Cruise over acting styles. Cruise was intense and serious, while Kilmer preferred spontaneity. Their tension actually improved their on-screen rivalry. Director Tony Scott encouraged the real-life friction between them. It helped sell the competitiveness that defines Maverick and Iceman. Despite initial hesitation, Kilmer fully committed once filming began. He even worked with real pilots to get his posture and speech patterns right. His character's line, "You're dangerous," became instantly quotable. Fans still debate who was the better pilot, Maverick or Iceman. After the film's release, Kilmer saw a massive boost in his career. He later called Top Gun a turning point, even though he never planned it. Kilmer reprised the role in Top Gun, Maverick bringing closure to his character. His return was emotional and praised by both critics and fans. Sometimes the roles you resist the most become your most iconic, and Val Kilmer's reluctant Iceman proved exactly that. Even a cold heart can leave a lasting legacy. Fact 6. The now famous love scene between Maverick and Charlie wasn't in the original script. In fact, it was filmed months after production had wrapped. Test audiences felt the movie lacked romantic tension, so the studio ordered a reshoot to add intimacy between the leads. By then, both Cruise and McGillis were working on different projects. Cruise had cut his hair short for The Color of Money. To maintain continuity, the scene was shot in dark lighting and silhouette. That's why the love scene is blue-tinted and shadow-heavy, not just for mood. It was a creative workaround to hide their appearance changes. The scene was shot quickly and on a minimal set. Despite being an afterthought, it became one of the film's most memorable moments. Berlin's Take My Breath Away played over the scene, boosting its emotional power. The song went on to win an Academy Award for Best Original Song. The love story also helped expand the film's appeal beyond action fans. It gave Maverick depth and showed a softer side to his character. Many viewers didn't realize it was an insert scene, filmed long after the rest. Critics later praised the scene for its balance between sensuality and restraint. McGillis said she felt the scene helped complete her character's arc. Without it, the Maverick-Charlie relationship would have felt underdeveloped. Sometimes last-minute decisions shape a film's legacy, and in this case, reshoots delivered one of Top Gun's most iconic moments. Even lightning in a bottle can come from a studio note. Fact 7. The aerial sequences in Top Gun remain some of the most thrilling in film history, and nearly all of them involved real Navy pilots flying real F-14 Tomcats. But filming those scenes was anything but smooth. Director Tony Scott often had no idea what the pilots would do mid-flight. He gave them loose instructions like, do something cool and hope for the best. The pilots pulled off complex maneuvers while cameramen filmed from nearby planes. One pilot dove so hard that the camera operator blacked out mid-shot. Other footage was ruined due to condensation inside the camera housing. Scott ended up with only a few usable minutes per flight hour. He later said it was like filming a wild animal with wings. The Navy imposed strict safety limits. No dogfights within a certain radius. Pilots sometimes bent those rules to get more dramatic footage. The realism came at a cost. The insurance premiums skyrocketed. One near miss during a stunt force production to halt temporarily. Still, the crew pushed forward, capturing footage that couldn't be faked. Most aerial shots were done in camera, not models and not CGI. That authenticity gave Top Gun its unmistakable energy. Even today, few action films match its air combat realism. It set the standard for aviation scenes in Hollywood. Real pilots risked real danger to make it happen. And every time a jet roars across the screen, you're seeing the real deal. Controlled chaos in the skies made cinematic history. Fact 8.
The MiG-28 does have a problem with its inverted flight tanks. It won't do a negative G pushover.
Kelly McGillis, who played Charlie, is around 5 feet 10 inches tall. Tom Cruise stands at approximately 5 feet 7 inches. That created unexpected challenges for the camera crew. In many scenes, crews had to stand on apple boxes or platforms. Cameramen also shot from low angles to even out their height difference. In walking scenes, crews would sometimes be placed on elevated pathways. The issue was so consistent that it influenced blocking and choreography. It's one of the earliest known examples of crews using height tricks on set. But McGillis didn't mind. She said their chemistry mattered more than inches. Still, their scenes together had to be carefully framed to maintain illusion. Lighting and set design were also adjusted for perspective. In wide shots, McGillis would slightly bend a knee or tilt her stance. The love scene helped because its darkness concealed physical disparity. Cruise's height became a frequent discussion in future productions. He later developed techniques to manage visual balance with taller co-stars. Top Gun was one of the first films where the issue became noticeable. Despite the workaround, their dynamic on-screen felt natural. Audiences never suspected any visual tricks were used. It showed that chemistry could outweigh physical differences. And the production proved height could be handled with smart filmmaking. In Hollywood, every detail, even inches, can shape a scene. And Top Gun pulled it off without breaking the illusion. Fact 9. Top Gun's sound design wasn't just impressive, it was groundbreaking. The film's audio team used real recordings of F-14 Tomcat engines. They captured sound from the carrier deck, cockpit, and even inside jet turbines. Every roar, whoosh, and sonic boom was built from raw military recordings. Sound designers then layered those with synthesized bass rumbles for impact. The result was a film so loud and immersive, it overwhelmed theater systems. In test screenings, speakers in some cinemas actually vibrated or blew out. This forced many theaters to upgrade their sound equipment in 1986. Paramount used Top Gun to promote new stereo formats like Dolby Stereo SR. Sound engineers received industry praise for pushing boundaries. The opening scene alone had over 120 separate audio tracks. Even simple things like helmet clicks and breathing were given dramatic weight. The sound mix made audiences feel like they were inside the cockpit. It created a full-body experience that had never been done before. Pilots who saw the film said it was shockingly close to real flight conditions. Some Navy personnel reported emotional reactions from the realism of the audio. It was one of the first action films where sound was treated like a character. Oscar voters took notice. The film won the Academy Award for Best Sound. The win helped elevate the role of sound engineers in action filmmaking. Hollywood adopted many of Top Gun's audio techniques in later blockbusters. From The Hunt for Red October to Crimson Tide, its influence was clear. With Top Gun, cinema started to sound like war. Fact 10. During filming, a real stunt pilot named Art Scholl was tragically killed. He was performing a spin maneuver in his Pitts S2 camera plane. The shot was meant to capture background footage for a jet sequence. Mid-flight, Scholl radioed, "I've got a problem here," and then lost control. His plane crashed into the Pacific Ocean off the Southern California coast. Despite search efforts, neither the plane nor Scholl's body was recovered. He was 53 years old and a legendary aerial cinematographer. Scholl had worked on dozens of films and was widely respected. The accident deeply affected the crew and caused a production pause. Producers later dedicated the film to his memory in the end credits. It reads, "For Art Scholl, pilot, aerial photographer, and friend." The footage he was capturing was never used in the final cut. Director Tony Scott called Scholl's death a sobering reminder of the risks involved. Even with safety measures, aerial filmmaking remains incredibly dangerous. Scholl's family supported the film's completion, saying he loved the work. His legacy lives on in the aviation and film communities. Many stunt pilots today cite Scholl as an early inspiration. The tragedy cast a shadow over an otherwise glamorous production. It also reminded everyone involved that Top Gun wasn't just pretend. The skies were real, the danger was real, and so were the consequences. Behind the adrenaline, Top Gun carried a cost.